Does your manager know these things about Clojure SYNC, the new Clojure conference that I'm running in New Orleans? So Clojure SYNC has 3 themes. There's only 1 track, but there are 3 themes, and they're all the talks are interlaced together. There's 1 theme that's all about the context of Clojure. These are big picture ideas. How does software fit into the history of humanity? That kind of thing. And that's supposed to give us a perspective. Now, I don't know how much that particular theme is going to help the business that you work for directly. Of course, thinking about these things might give you business ideas. It might help you understand what you're doing as a software developer, as a professional software developer. But it's kind of indirect, right? It's a stretch. However, there is a whole theme dedicated only to Clojure and the business of Clojure. So that involves hiring, getting hired. So we have Rebecca Kinsella, who is the technical recruiter at Funding Circle, which is an awesome company. They have different branches. One is in England, one is in Silicon Valley in San Francisco, and they're a whole Clojure stack, and they are running the Clojure groups meetup in San Francisco, a really big meetup, and doing a whole bunch of recruiting and hiring. And so she's going to be talking about that, about how to hire, what to look for, how to get hired, that kind of stuff. Super important for business. We also have BG. He's the CTO of a company, started in India, now he lives in San Francisco. It is another Clojure company. They had the first Clojure code in production. Like, it's confirmed on the mailing list. He said, I just pushed some code to production. Has anyone else done that? And well, no one answered, so it was early enough that he had the first one. And he's going to talk about the challenges of building a business on that. It's probably going to include a little bit of hiring, but also a lot of training and those kinds of difficult questions that come up when you're building your business on Clojure. I mean, and especially back then when it was even more of an unknown quantity. Now, I mean, we know that it's a really nice language for building on, but back then, you know, it was a big risk. So he's going to be talking about that, why he did it, what were the challenges. Then we have a talk by Ilana Hashman. She's going to be talking about integrating with the larger ecosystem. So she's talking specifically about getting a Debian package for Lineagen and making it herself. You know, leading the team that's making that. And so that's really important because we often forget that part of what makes us able to do what we do as professional programmers is all of this work that's going on behind the scenes. All the tooling, all the open source work, all of the integrations into this operating system, that operating system. So it's really important to understand how that stuff works and who's out there doing it. Okay, so that's one theme. But then there's another theme called the craft of Clojure. Okay, so this is more about actual Clojure skills, right? How do we actually program in Clojure? So this is about code, the style. So we have Zach Tellman. He's writing a book called Elements of Clojure, which is an obvious play on the title Elements of Style, which is the book that it's modeled after, all about English writing style, right? This is the elements of Clojure. It's all about best practices when you're writing Clojure. Well, how do you name things? How do you build abstractions? What are some problem areas to avoid? You know, he's going to be talking about just like the meat and potatoes of working with Clojure code. Definitely going to help you become a better Clojure programmer directly for your job. We've also got someone, Emily is going to be talking about, Emily Ashley, sorry. She's going to be talking about the difficulties of modeling human level concepts, human concepts in code. And she's going to be using the examples of time and place, which there's very technical definitions of time and place, like you can give an exact latitude and longitude coordinate, or you can give an exact timestamp down to the millisecond, but that doesn't always correspond with the way people actually think and talk about time. You know, they say last week, right? Is that the whole week? Just one point in time? Last year, you know, this building was built in 1972. Was it January 1st, 1972? Probably not, right? So she's going to be talking about those difficulties, how she faced the challenges of modeling these concepts that don't quite fit the notion that we typically use in software. Then we've also got a nice talk by George Kirstein. She's going to be talking about code hibernation. And so this one requires a little bit of explanation. You know, if you write some code today and then don't touch it for 6 months, not only is it going to be hard for you to read it and understand it, but the computer might not be able to run it anymore. The libraries on your machine could have changed, or the version of the compiler might be different, and it just doesn't work anymore. Or the services you're talking to have changed and they are not existent anymore. So we rely so much on this environment on our machines to make our software run, that sometimes changes to that environment are very they break our programs. So she's talking about strategies for making this problem less of a problem. She doesn't have a complete solution. I don't think anyone could, but she has ways of archiving code that I think would be useful to anyone who actually works in software, just to understand the framework, the thinking behind how you begin to even approach a problem like this. We all have so much code, and if we don't keep it running, all that work could be lost and we could lose a lot of valuable time. Okay, so I do have to mention one more thing. Those are the two tracks that I think would be useful specifically for a business to gain value out of the conference. I just want to talk about one more thing, which is the networking and hiring that are possible at a conference. So there are going to be about 200 Clojure programmers there, and many of them are going to be looking for a job. Some of them have never worked in Clojure before, and they're interested in starting, and they're showing enough interest that they're paying, quite a bit of money, probably out of pocket, to come down and stay there in a hotel and attend the conference. So it's a good sign that they're motivated to learn Clojure, and also it's a good sign that they're interested in this other track, this other theme, this contexting, that they're broad thinking people. They're not just focused on coding, in the small, right? It's coding in the large. Okay, so there's going to be 200 programmers there. I'm not saying they're all available to hire, right? But that's one of the reasons that people go to conferences, is to network and to meet potential employers. And so I've been doing a little research, and I was seeing that to hire a new person, it can cost more than $30,000. When you look at all of the interview, the time it takes to process all the resumes that you get for your job application, and the interview process, and the paperwork that you might have to do, especially if it's a remote person and they're in a different state, and now you have to start dealing with different state laws and things like that. It can get really costly. And this is not to mention the cost of lost productivity, because you don't have that person on the staff now, right? That's more thousands of dollars, right? So if you imagine, let's say at the biggest, right, like this is a very conservative estimate. Let's say you take the cost of going to this conference, including the ticket, and sending one person. Your company's going to send one person. So they got the conference ticket, 3 nights in a hotel, and a flight there. And plus, let's add in meals. I don't know if your company would pay for meals while you're traveling, but let's make this a conservative estimate. We're talking about, let's say, $3,000. Okay, this is $3,000 to be shaking hands, passing out business cards, making contacts with real people who are obviously interested in Clojure, because they're paying, let's say about the same amount to be there. Now compare that to the over $30,000 it takes to hire a person, when you could be there talking to, it's 2 days, it's a 2-day conference. You could take those 2 days, skip the talks, maybe you skip the talks and you just talk to people. You go to the social events that are happening after the conference. You just meet people. You could find someone to hire right there without going through stacks of resumes, without spending all this time interviewing. So that is the case I can make for sending people from your company to the conference, because if you compare the actual costs of getting motivated people, like finding those motivated people by sifting through resumes and then talking to them and trying to come up with some kind of way of evaluating them, when you could have a conversation with someone over coffee right there about Clojure. The conversation topic is easy. Hey, did you see the last talk? Etc. It's easy. You see, oh wow, this person really knows their stuff. Or they don't, you move on to the next person. But boom, they really know their stuff. I wonder if they're available. Maybe they're not. Oh, but this other person I know is. Let me introduce you to my friend. Wah, wah, wah. I think to me it's a no-brainer. I would rather know the person than go through this boring bureaucratic process of going through the resumes. Probably cheaper too. Okay, I'm Eric Normand. I'm running the conference, Clojure SYNC. It's in February in New Orleans. ClojureSync.com. Check it out. Send your people. All of them. Send them all. They all want to go. So send them all. And if you want to go, send this to your manager, send this to your HR person, send this to everyone that you think might have some influence in getting you to go to the conference. All right, thank you so much.